My agency is pulling in 500k a month now, but when I started, I was grinding 12 to 14 hours a day just to survive. But listen, if I had known the 5 things that I'm about to share with you, I could have hit 100k a month working only 3 hours a day. And I'm about to show you how to do it. Want to skip 5 years of wasted time, avoid over 3,000 hours of pointless grind, and save yourself millions of dollars in mistakes? Grab your notebook, because this is the video that's going to change everything. So tip 1 is about the theory of constraints. When I first started, my agency would have these insane spikes in revenue, but then nothing. My Stripe account would literally look like a staircase, just up, down like this. Maybe you can relate to that. We would flatline for months. It felt like I was doing everything right, but the reality was that we were hitting bottlenecks, constraints that were holding us back, and I had no clue what they were. So imagine for a second your business is a chain with 100 links, and each link is able to hold 100 kilograms. But if just one link is weak and can only handle 40 kilograms, the entire chain breaks. It doesn't matter how strong the other 99 links are. It's impossible for that chain to hold the full 100 kg. That is the theory of constraints. Your business will always be held back by the weakest link. But if you fix that one link, you now have the chance for the chain to support the full 100 kg. All you need to do is swap kg for monthly recurring revenue, and that weight becomes the revenue ceiling that you'll hit until that constraint is fixed. So it's your job to find and fix that constraint so you can scale. Talking of scaling, if you want a completely free digital copy of my 150-page SMMA blueprint ebook plus extra bonuses, click the link in the description. After working with over 4,000 agencies over the past 7 years, I can tell you that your constraint is most likely one of these 4 things. Number 1, predictable client acquisition. Having a system that consistently brings in new customers every single month. Number 2, customer retention. A client paying 2k for 3 months is worth 6k. But if they stay for 12 months, that same client can be worth 24k. Longer retention means you could double, triple, or even quadruple your revenue. Number 3, back-end systems. Your business maybe isn't ready for scale, whether that's lack of team members for service delivery, bad operations, no management in place, or being too dependent on you as the owner. And number 4, pricing. You're either charging too little or targeting the wrong type of clients who can't afford to pay the rates that will allow you to scale. Now, for us, client retention was our latest bottleneck. So I focused solely on improving the onboarding experience, the service quality, and getting stricter with the type of clients that we brought on. After doing so, our churn rate dropped by about 40%, and our revenue scaled by an extra £60,000 a month. Now, just from telling you this, you probably already know which constraint is holding you back. But the thing is, as entrepreneurs, we just love to overcomplicate things. And look, if you're anything like me, you'll probably feel guilty for taking as much as a 5-minute break. So instead, you just work like a busy idiot. I hate to tell it to you, but you're probably focusing on all of the wrong things. And trust me, I have been there, okay? You think you're being disciplined by grinding and working hard, but real discipline is in focusing on just one thing, and that one thing needs to be the constraint. So your goal from here on out after this video is to focus only on that weak link, see everything else as a distraction until it's fixed. So now that you've identified your biggest constraint, you know where your bottleneck is. But here's the thing, even if you fix it, you will need leverage to grow fast, because without it, you're going to keep hitting these ceilings over and over again. So the next tip is how to build the highest form of leverage that's going to compound your results over time. This is the shortcut that no one talks about. And that tip is that learning is the highest form of leverage. So I used to think that learning wasn't as important as action. I was too busy working my 12-hour days to learn more. But here's what I didn't realize. Learning is leverage, and it compounds over time. Think for a second, who are the people who are always ahead? Well, they're the people that read, learn, and internalize before they take action, okay? And that becomes their edge. You've probably heard the famous Abraham Lincoln quote, which says, if you're to give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. Now, this is a quote that's widely used as a metaphor to emphasize the importance of preparation and strategy before taking action. And trust me, learning in this instance is the best form of preparation that you can possibly have. See, most entrepreneurs, and I've been here again, they sprint into action without thinking. Imagine your theoretical goal is 5 miles away in a straight line as the crow flies. But instead of taking that direct path, you charge off into the hills, into the valleys, running into dead ends, and you turn that 5-mile journey into 50 miles of struggle. Learning ahead of time is that critical time spent at the start, learning from someone who's walked that path 100 times before you, so they can help you figure out the best path to take. So instead of wasting your time, energy, you reach your goal in 5 miles instead of the 50. Talking of which, if you're serious about taking your agency to the next level, check out some of the links in the description. There is a reason that the top CEOs read 50 books a year. Why is that? It's because knowledge is leverage. So here's exactly what I do. So let's say, for example, I knew my biggest bottleneck right now is my sales team not following up effectively enough. I don't just sprint to them with a list of random ideas that I dreamt up overnight and hope to God that they'll work. Instead, I study, I watch trainings, I read books straight from the best experts in the world on the topic of follow-up. I then go on, make detailed notes and create what I call a follow-up playbook just in Google Docs. And this is a master doc with all of the top strategies. I then filter through that, boiling it down to the most relevant for my business. Then, only once I've refined that list, do I roll it out to the team. That way, we're not just guessing, we're getting to the goal in the fastest and most efficient way. You've probably heard the Archimedes quote, if you were to give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, I could move the world. Well, in this instance, learning is that lever. It's what lets you move mountains and accomplish great things. So, let's make this actionable. Pause the video for a second. I want you to write down the biggest struggle that you have right now. Go over to Instagram and DM me, it's @BradleyJRiley, and I will personally answer everyone who DMs me within the first 72 hours of this video going live. I'll drop you a response to your biggest struggle right now and help you on your way. So now that you've nailed down your biggest constraint and you know how to build a learning system for leverage, the next step is key. How do you make sure that you're spending your time on the right things? So yes, you might have the bigger picture constraint identified, but what about the specific daily actions that need to take place to drive that growth? So in the next tip, I'm going to share 3 simple questions that I ask myself every single day to stay laser focused on what really matters and moves the needle, and also helps me avoid getting caught up in costly distractions. Tip 3, ask yourself these 3 questions daily. So back when I first started, I used to run around like a headless chicken, trying 100 different things, thinking that I was being productive. But here's the truth, activity does not equal progress. It wasn't until I learned this that everything changed. Ask better questions, get better answers. So I boiled it down to 3 questions that I ask myself every single day. Number 1, what are the 3 most important things that I need to do today to get closer to my goal? Number 2, is my team working on the right things, or do I need to refocus them on what actually matters? And number 3, what red flags or potential issues are lurking in the business that need to be fixed? Now, let's dive deeper into exactly how this works. So question 1, what are the 3 most important things that I need to do today? So one of the first things I do every single morning is grab a notebook and ask myself this question. You have to realize that nothing else matters if you don't achieve those 3 things. As Bruce Lee said, fear not the man who has practiced 1,000 kicks in a day, but the man who has practiced 1 kick for 1,000 straight days. That's what this is all about. It's about compound progress over time. See, by focusing on these key tasks, you can really start to see your results stack up. So instead of just being busy, you're being productive. So, example, let's say right now your big bottleneck is retention and you realize that onboarding is where you're losing your clients. Your 3 tasks for the day could be, number 1, update and improve the onboarding questionnaire. Number 2, revamp the client roadmap that we go through in the onboarding process. And number 3, refilm the whole onboarding process to give clients more clarity about what to expect when they come on board. So when you're able to do these focused tasks like this consistently, you're not just working, you're working smart. And again, that is what drives progress. So I want you to do that tomorrow, do it again the next day and the day after that, forever, and you will literally be unstoppable in your agency. Okay, so number 2, refocusing your army. So now that you know what you need to do yourself, you've got to understand that your team needs to be laser focused too. Think of it like you're leading an army. Your job is to make sure that that army is marching in the right direction. So for example, let's say right now you've got 10 people that are working under you, and all 10 of those people are focused on the most important tasks. It becomes a multiplier effect. Because you're not just moving the needle on what you need to do, you're launching the whole thing through the bloody roof, okay? So in the example I gave before about retention, again, to take a step further, you then might tell your team and your account managers to send daily check-ins to every single one of their customers during their onboarding process, or create a proactive plan for every single one of their customers to ensure the clients are becoming successful with their ad campaigns. This way, everybody in the business is focused on solving that constraint and improving retention. Do you see how that works? Now, the third question, red flags, okay? Understand prevention is better than cure. Now, here's the part that people hate doing, but it's critical. Growth is important, but survival is absolutely essential. It's a non-negotiable, okay? So because of this, you do need to be looking at the red flags, things that could kill your business if they go unchecked. You know, ask yourself these questions. What could derail you? It could be things like, do you have the right insurance? Is your cybersecurity and your password protection tight? Do you have two-factor authentication set up on all of your clients' accounts? You know, think, what was to happen if a client that makes up 90% of our revenue, one of our team members was to get hacked, go into that ad account, spend 10 grand a day? Like, what would happen to your business if that were to happen? These red flags are things that could potentially take your company down overnight. And it is uncomfortable to think about, but you need to spend at least a few minutes every single day being realistic and addressing the potential issues before they explode in your face. Now look, I'm fully aware these are not the fun parts of running a business, but they are absolutely necessary as a CEO, as an owner, okay? And I can tell you from experience, prevention is always better than cure, than trying to put these fires out reactively, okay? So again, to recap, here's what you do every day. Focus on 3 tasks yourself that drive the business forward. Number 2, make sure your team are aligned and doing the same thing for themselves. And number 3, always check for red flags that could sink the ship. It's simple, but again, it's so goddamn powerful. Now look, I know I promised you 3 tips, but here's a bonus tip because I want you to win. So you're laser focused on your top 3 priorities, you've refocused your team, and you're catching red flags early. But here's the problem. No matter how focused you are, you're only as strong as your team culture, and I wish I knew this sooner. If your team isn't able to perform without you, you don't have a business, you just have a glorified job. So think of it this way, if you want to work less hours and achieve the same results, you're going to need competent people around you. And here is the core takeaway. Culture is what happens when you are not there. And because of this, you need to build a culture where everybody knows the mission and can execute even when you're not watching. This stems from putting the right people in the right place and being really strict with removing people who don't fit the bill. So you've got the 3 keys to scaling faster and working smarter, but here's the thing, I've barely scratched the surface. So if you click the video somewhere here on screen, I'm going to break down the 10 core lessons that allowed my 500k a month agency to run for a full month with practically 0 hours of work from me. It's 55 minutes of pure actionable gold, stuff that you won't hear anybody else. So click the video on screen right now. You cannot afford to miss this one.